the music. You will be inspired to think higher, realize your gift. Join the music and Michelle and Gina. Turn this up and through your speakers. It's the music of music.
Hello to you all. Yes, you are watching, listening to The Music's Behind the Music, and I am your host, Michelle Fallon. Please, before we even get started with this phenomenal maestra of the stage, would you go on ahead? If you're watching YouTube, I need you to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Feel free to grab some friends along and let them watch. Make some comments in there because you know we like to talk back in the process of doing this. If you're on Facebook watching through Music's Behind the Music, go ahead and share, like it, love it, all of those wonderful things. I appreciate your support. And make sure also that you're giving StreamYard permission so that you are able to have a conversation with us. Good evening to everyone. Hello, my beautiful sister, Deetra out there. Thank you so much for joining and watching tonight. Or if you're listening in the daytime, it doesn't matter. I have an incredible guest. Her name is Kalena Bovell. She is maestra of the stage, a speaker, a poet, and she is a Panamanian American conductor. Yes, come on. It must be that extra island blood that runs through her that gives her all that beauty and grace that you will see on the stage. She has the twin tenets of musical excellence and community access. I love that, and I'm going to talk a little bit tonight with her about that. Those are two beautiful components to bring together, especially the excellence segment of it. And she has won, guys, listen, the amount of awards and the stages that she has been able to grace herself on in front of orchestras is just absolutely astounding. She made her debut, conducting debut, including an opera of at the Volcano Theater, which she will be leading a reimagined production of Scott Joplin's Treemonisha, which is awesome. In September 2022, she returned to the international stage and did her first performance in Switzerland. In 2023, she opened the year with her Sphinx debut at Sphinx Connect 2023. She's led numerous marquee performances all over the world with a variety of different orchestras. I mean, just the list really does go on and on. And so I would invite you to also check her webpage out at Kalena Bovell. I'll make sure that we put that inside the chat so you can go and see just a myriad of her repertoire and the things that she is doing. Because I named that she is a maestra. She is a poet. She's a speaker. And she has a blog. A blog that she writes all the time too. I want to take a minute though before we bring her on. I want to show you all just a little clip of the things that she is doing on stage, in case you've never had the opportunity to see her and work in action. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Check this out. Ladies and gentlemen, will you kindly welcome Maestra Kalena Bovell?
Hello, and hi everybody. Thank you for watching, tuning in.
Yes, how are you?
Good. It was so weird watching that clip of the Coleridge Taylor, simply because I was like, oh God, I don't even conduct like that anymore. Like, mainly because obviously as a person, as a conductor, as a musician, you hope for growth. And so it's just I have seen the growth in myself since that performance was done. What, maybe 2 summers ago? So I was like, oh,
Awesome.
yes, there's some things I don't do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love this comment, the passion and the deliberateness. And yes, your passion is there. I'm always watching conductors for that. And I think because I always feel like when I'm embodied inside a performance, I want to see them tell me the story of it. So when you're like doing it, what have you thought about? Like a piece like the Coleridge Taylor, and you have it in front of you. Are you thinking about telling the story? Like what's the thing that comes across your mind that you're trying to get out to the audience?
I mean, it's several different things. You know what I mean? So as a poet, depending on the piece that I'm working on, I actually will write a story to go along with that piece or that movement, so that in my head I know how it all fits together.
Yeah.
But then also, when you're in the moment of conducting a piece, you might be thinking, okay, such and such is going to need me right here at this moment, or let me be sure that I have the pattern correct here, or so it really kind of depends on just what the music is asking. I mean, sometimes I will come outside of myself to say, okay, here is a meter change, be mindful, or here is a transition. But other times it might just be, with that Coleridge Taylor, there's one spot, like a slower melodic section, where to me it's like you're in a jazz bar enjoying an adult beverage, and every time I got to that spot, it was like, oh yes, lounge singer on top of piano singing like some Tony Bennett or something.
Right,
You know what I mean?
I love the adult beverage.
Listen, we're all adult here, except for the ones who aren't. Like,
and some of them who don't need to be doing it, but
that's why you have chocolate milk.
Absolutely. How'd you get started? How did this thing happen for you? And wait, tell me a little bit about the Panamanian background. Who is on the side that you are? Mother, father?
Oh, it's changed, because back in the day I'd be like, think of anyone in your family, extended or immediate. They were all born in Panama except for me. And so now it's kind of changed, because now some of my cousins, my baby cousins and nieces, are born in the States. But basically, my parents are from Panama. My brother, like everyone that you could think of, aunts, uncles.
Oh, wow.
I'm a first generation born in the United States.
Yeah.
And so my parents came to the States, I believe it was the late 70s. The way I know it was that my dad came first, and then he saved up money to bring my mom over.
Yep.
And then eventually they brought my brother over, and eventually my grandmother over, and so it was kind of typical for most immigrants back then. They were searching for the American dream, and they knew that for my brother and I, we would have better opportunities here in the States than we would had we stayed in Panama.
Yeah.
And so I have the accent sometimes. I do not speak Spanish.
I was going to ask you, do you speak any Spanish?
It's very broken. I understand a lot more than I can speak. And that was because, my parents really felt as though if you were moving to the dominant country, then you learn the dominant language.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah. And so, obviously they have regrets, because we're kind of like, oh, maybe you should have been bilingual, but it's like what's done is done. So, I mean, I took Spanish in high school, and I get by with an accent. If you speak to me in Spanish, I will respond to you in English, and that tends to throw people.
Yeah.
But it's just because, again, I understand so much more than I can speak, and my speaking is very broken. So,
are you planning on bridging that at some point, like just taking it up? And we Americans are a little bit, not you. I'm just saying, we Americans, we are a little bit lazy on the, having more than just one language.
I mean, honestly, I want to say that I've tried. But it's like, as a conductor, the languages that are most useful to us are what? German, Italian, and French.
Right.
And I have always wanted to learn German. So it's like my love of German has kind of overtaken my want to study or learn Spanish.
Yes.
But I also feel like just drop me in a Spanish speaking country for a good month and I'll be okay.
You and I are kindred spirits. My ultimate favorite language to sing in is German. I
Is it?
love, oh my gosh, and Strauss is one of my ultimate favorite composers
Mm-hmm.
of the literature. I mean, just beautiful. I keep saying Strauss had to somewhere along the line either be black or have married. You ever hear those, just some of those chords
Mm-hmm.
that he was just laying, and it's like, oh, it's very churchy at times too. I mean, I'm just always, anyway. That's my own mindset
Well,
with.
I'm always like with Strauss. I'm like, listen, someone obviously broke your heart because there is no way. li- Where is the lie? Because there's no way that you can write some of those chords or have some of those harmonies without really experiencing your humanity,
It's the depth. It's
right?
the depth, absolutely. And maybe that's why this is Dietra is an opera singer as well, and she's got a love for Brahms. And to me, I think Brahms always scared me because my first instrument was the piano, and
Mhm.
Brahms I barely had an octave reach. Oh, Brahms is out here doing like these crazy tenths and I'm like, who's gonna do it? And so very left hand heavy, and my left hand
Mhm.
was weak. So I'm sorry, but the choral repertoire and the solo repertoire of Brahms is absolutely glorious. So, Kalena, did your parents coming to America did they appreciate you going into music? Was this like, hey, I need you to take on something else while you're pursuing the art?
No, I mean, I smiled slash half laughed because my parents really didn't understand how, like me as a kid, very awkward tomboy child,
Mm-hmm.
gravitated to classical music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I think that it's made like my mom is like, oh yeah, she does this, but it's like we don't really understand how she came to that, or like because I do remember like actually this is a joke about it, but I remember telling my parents, oh hey, I'm gonna be a conductor, and then being like, oh yeah, that's cool. What's that?
Wow.
But like
Right,
but
right.
like no, but I mean no, they were always very supportive. I mean my parents were always like whatever makes you happy makes us
Yeah.
happy. When I started playing the violin, I was age 11 years old, and I was 7 years self-taught because it was a lack of music education awareness. Basically no one told me or my parents, hey, does your daughter love playing the violin? Maybe she should start private
Right,
lessons. We
right,
didn't know those things. Or, here's this enrichment program, or here's this after school conservatory or summer music camps. Didn't
right.
know any of those things. So for me, everything that I learned and taught was in the public school system.
Mm,
And so once I finally got to college and discovered conducting, it was kind of like, yeah, no, this is what I want to do. But as a violinist, my dad came to every single concert.
yeah.
Didn't really know anything about classical music, but my daddy showed up. I would look in the back of the hall, and sure enough, my daddy would
Yep.
give me the
Oh,
signal,
I love that.
and then he would go home. Because I
Right.
always knew my dad was going to be there.
Yeah.
You
That's
know.
awesome. That's
Hmm.
awesome. I love that. I read somewhere that you said something about happy accidents.
Yeah.
Is that a part of the happy accident, like you landing and doing violin? What are the happy accidents?
So like I was never that kid who was like, "Oh, I love music. I'm going to sing my heart out." I didn't know that I could sing until someone helped me discover that I could sing.
Mm,
So at third grade, 9 years old in elementary school, the choir teacher is going around to every single classroom because she's auditioning for choir.
mhm.
And she goes to me and she's like, hey, sing these pitches, tap back these rhythms. And it was like, okay, you're in choir. And I remember thinking, oh, I didn't know I could sing because
Wow.
I never tried to sing back a tune I heard on the radio.
Mhm.
And so it was like, oh, I have this thing. And I started latching on to this thing that was music. And
Yeah.
then when I got to middle school, I wanted to be in choir, but because there was a schedule conflict, they put me in beginning strings class. And that at that time, I didn't know anything about the orchestral family of instruments. I'd
Right.
never seen a string instrument before. And so my teacher, Joe Taylor, who passed on about several years ago, but I remember Taylor went around, asked every student, okay, what do you want to play?
Mm.
Me not knowing anything about the strings family, I was like, well, I want to play flute. He called me an idiot. Actually, he called me something way worse, but he called me an idiot and was like, go get a violin. And then it was like, okay, I am now in love with the violin.
Wow.
Right. And so I thought that I was going to be a soloist. I mean, Hilary Hahn was someone I idolized back then.
Mhm.
And I thought that I was going to be Hilary Hahn soloing with LA Phil, playing
Yeah.
shows at Carnegie. But I have a physical body that was prone to injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So, tendonitis, carpal tunnel, listen, I have had it all. But, I'm fine now because I now know how to use myself correctly. And then as a music education major in undergrad, it was okay, we now must take a year of instrumental conducting. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Learn
Mm-hmm.
the patterns. This is how you move your hands. This is how you read a score. Okay, now get up. It's your time to conduct. And then I conducted, and I was just like, okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. So everything was by happenstance. It was never like, okay, I want to play violin or I want to conduct. It was just kind of, okay, you've been accidentally put into this beginning strings class because the other class is full. And well, you're music ed major and you kind of have to take this conducting class. So now it's your shot. So it was never like these things were planned.
Did you feel it like, because you had 3 different areas you could have chosen, from singing or being a soloist or conducting? Did you feel it like was there this stirring that just let you know, this is where I'm purposed to be? I'm supposed to be a conductor.
Well, for me, I thought that I was going to be a singer. Like singing was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I mean, in elementary, like pop.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like TLC, Aaliyah.
Right.
Like my friends and I used to write songs in elementary school.
Right.
And we used to choreograph our dance moves and we would perform. Like, listen, we were hot. At least we thought so. we thought we was hot, like we did. But then once I discovered violin, for me, it was like, no, violin is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Right. Like I knew, nope, this is it. This is the rest of my life. But then when I started conducting, it was like, okay, so violin is my heart, but conducting is my passion.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew. I was like, no, conducting is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it was like, no question about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that when people find that thing, I don't know if you get a lot of people who ask you, how do you find your purpose? How do you know that it's your purpose? But
you just know.
Right. There's like, I think it's hard for me to tell somebody because I just knew, like you just knew what it would be. Suppose you had like a young person, and I'm sure you've had a myriad of different people come to you and ask you that question. What do you share with them? Because it was easy for you to know I'm in it, but for other people, they're still trying to find
it.
this.
It's like, that's such a good question, because like even before I knew that conducting was going to be my thing, basically. Like music, when I discovered I could sing, like music became like this obsession, so to speak. Like I remember listening to my CD player or my Walkman back then.
A Walkman,
player, right?
Girl, go ahead, date us.
Right, but I would fall asleep listening to music, and then I would wake up and it would still be playing, and music was the only thing I thought about all day, every day.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, it was easy for me because music was just this thing that I latched onto that I just never wanted to let go.
Yeah.
And so when people ask me how do they find their purpose, I kind of just say it's by trial and error. I mean, you have to experience life and see what you like and you don't like. And eventually, when you just go to bed thinking about that one thing and then you wake up thinking about that one thing, that's the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah, people do say that a lot, and I believe it. Like, because it never left my mind either. That's the only thing I knew from I was age 4. And it was I knew in some way, shape, or form it was going to be this thing called music. I didn't know the evolution of what would happen. So I love that you used the phrase, you learned how to use yourself correctly. What does that mean?
Well, so like, violin is such an awkward instrument, right? And even conducting is a very awkward thing to do because there's so much like upper body strength that is involved, but there's really no upper body strength that is involved. And so, I mean, when you think about it, you have to know how to hold your arms up without inviting tension. And so when it comes to how do I use myself correctly, so I took something called Alexander technique in undergrad, right? Which is all about how to physically align your body so that you are allowing for proper movement and to invite less tension.
Yeah.
And so for me, using myself correctly, it was even just something like my posture or, sitting down, how my neck would come forward. And that's putting tension on my the back of my neck.
Yep.
And so for me, it came from a physical awareness of where am I holding tension and why?
Yep.
And once I kind of tuned into that and tapped into that, then I started working on, okay, I don't need tension in order to conduct, or I
Mhm.
don't need tension in order to play violin. I mean, I actually realized, learned a couple months ago, I have scapular dyskinesia, which is basically just a very fancy way of saying that my scapulas don't move properly. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, so that's why it was always so hard to hold up violin, way back in the day.
Okay,
And
yeah.
that's why, like, I always kept getting injured. I mean, it's because the muscles were weak and they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So now that I've been retraining that, and again focusing on using myself correctly and just kind of walking with ease and no tension, oh, it's been great.
Are you working out?
Oh, all the time. I mean, I kind of slacked off simply because I've been doing a lot of traveling,
Right.
but I've always worked out 3 to 4 days a week. I do stretching, I do Pilates, like all of that stuff is very important to me, just being mobile,
Yeah.
because it's really not about strength. It's about having the muscles that I need to be strong in order to do what I do. Like
Yeah.
having a strong back core.
Is this a normal tendency for conductors to be conscientious of their physical health and well-being and working out? And the reason I ask that, because although I conduct choral
Hmm.
ensembles, if I'm mainly into singing, so when I talk and see other singers,
Hmm.
it's almost like force feeding the idea to them. You've got to be physically together. You've got to
Hmm.
work out. You've got to prep your body. And you've got to eat the right foods because they affect the voice. Like,
Hmm.
is it normal for other conductors, or this is something that
I
they got?
don't think so. I mean, I really think it varies by the person.
Yeah.
Like I've always been into physical fitness, and for me, it was a way of taking back control.
Yeah.
And so God, I can't even think of the years right now, but between the ages of 19 to 24, I battled a 5-year depression, which
Wow.
no one can ever tell from looking at me because of my bubbly personality.
Yeah.
But I remember being back then, I just feeling like I'm losing control of everything. And so for me to regain control was, what can I do that's helpful to my body? And I started working out.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, just physical exercise has been important to me, because it's also just that time that I can give back to myself. But
Yeah.
also, as a conductor, with all of the traveling, with the amount of time that you're on your feet, with the amount of time that you're sitting, it's so easy to invite low back pain, or just tension, or for
Yes.
muscles to get weak. So if you're not taking care of yourself physically, then you're going to be of no use on the podium.
That pandemic,
Hmm.
I had to order one of those, laptop stands.
Yeah.
I started getting these muscle spasms
Hmm.
low in the back, and I was like, "Oh no, this can't this can't work. I don't even have any here, and let alone I'm getting spasms back there too. No, we gotta
Hmm.
do something about it." So all of that, really did contribute to it, but it was a good thing too. During the pandemic, I was able to really, really get out into nature, to
Yeah.
really, really enjoy the moment of quiet. Like, I love what I do. You and I had this conversation the other day. I love what I do. I love the busyness of things, but I also want to make sure that I'm finding space to self care.
Hmm.
And the world reopened itself, and it has got
Very quickly.
very quickly. And it's almost like I'm not having those moments you said earlier, because you're traveling so much, that you can't get it. So what are you doing? Like, how do you find the time, or how do you find, creative ideas to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, that it really is about you? Because we can't do what we do well without taking care of self.
Yeah, and I mean, and we live in a society that glorifies the grind culture,
Yeah.
and at my age, it's like I'm going to be 40 in a week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't care to grind. You know what I mean? It's like when I was 22, 23. Yes, let me 24/7. Now I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I
Yeah.
don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I make sure to take one full day off a week, without guilt, to do whatever I want to do. And usually I'm sitting on the couch all day. It's just
Right.
terrible,
Yeah.
but it's what I need, because when people ask me like, oh, what do you do on your days off? And before it was like, well, I'm trying to do my laundry and I'm trying to clean my apartment. It's like, no, that's not a day off because you were still doing the things that you fell behind on because of how busy life can get. So
Mm,
for me, it's I wake up, I allow myself to sleep in, I have a hearty breakfast. I do not answer text messages, phone calls, emails. Like I completely shut off from the world because I need to recharge and pour into myself
yes.
because everything else around me has depleted me, which
Yeah.
is a choice that we make as musicians.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's what I do. It's like I take guaranteed one day off to either I'll watch a movie, I might go grab a coffee. If the weather's nice, I'll go to the park, I'll hang out with a friend, but it's just like dedicated time to me.
Yes. When we were talking about that and that whole shutting the world out, I don't know, are you an introvert, an extrovert, an ambivert?
Oh,
To,
I am very much an introvert,
okay. All right.
which
So
is hard as a conductor.
it was just so wild too, right? Because here you're in this lifestyle that you're in front of a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of
Hmm.
personalities, Lord have mercy. And
Hmm.
you've got to be live and you've got to be that extrovert that you're not. How you
Hmm.
doing
I mean, it's like I call myself the ambivert for work.
it? Yeah.
Like the
Mhm.
extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is like going to rehearsals for me can be draining
Oh yes.
because
Yes.
you have to be on, like
Yes.
you have to turn on the personality. But then once rehearsal is over, it's like, no, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to be by myself so I can recharge.
Yes.
So that's really important to me, and it's hard because sometimes people want to be like, oh, hey, let's go out after rehearsals or let's do, and I'm like, no, and this is not against you. I'm doing what I need to do because I'm tired, like mentally, physically, emotionally, because I am an introvert and I need my quiet time.
Listen, I've had girlfriends of mine guilt trip me about it. Because I always feel that whole, you said it, the words I use all the time about being on. I'm on all the time,
Hmm.
rehearsals, performances, dinner meetings, lunch meetings. It's just like, and so when I'm done with it, like I just want to be on the couch
Hmm.
with my dogs and chilling, whether we watch a movie together or not, my dogs.
Right.
You know what
Well,
I
what's funny was that two of my really good friends from Connecticut when I used to live there, we would hang out like every 2 weeks or so because I was busy, but I would schedule in my friend time, my social time, and then they kind of knew after like 2.5, 3 hours, I would just get really quiet, and they'd be like, "Kalena, have you reached your social quota? We'll see you again in 3 weeks," and I'd be out.
mean? Your friends love you
But I'm serious.
because
But
they
that's what it
understand
is.
that.
That's
Yeah,
what it is. After a while, it's just like, okay, I'm done. Like I cannot be around people anymore.
yeah.
And it's funny, not funny, but it's funny when you mention the pandemic. How many people were like, now is the time to be creative, and I was like, nah, now is the time to sit on the couch. And like when everybody was like, oh, I'm going crazy because I'm not seeing people. I was like, oh, I'm good for another 2 months.
Me
Like,
too. Me too.
it's like when I needed social interaction, I went into the Starbucks drive-through, and I was good for another 3, 4 weeks. It was fine.
Starbucks drive-through for
That's
interaction.
that. Listen, true introverts unite. Like,
No judgment call whatsoever. So
no shade.
no shade whatsoever. Whatever you need to get your fix, let it be. Let it be. What did you do in the pandemic that you refuse to do now that we're out of it?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know because I had a really busy pandemic year.
Mm-mm. How did you rehearse? How'd you do that?
Well, okay, so like, um, I'm trying to think. So the world shut down, and then I actually had gotten an invitation from the Chineke Orchestra to conduct
Yes.
one of their behind the scenes concerts back in November 2020. So, flew to London, quarantined for 14 days. We did this lovely project, and then I came back to the States. And then because of that, because of my work with Chineke, all of a sudden people are like, hey, we have this thing. Are you interested in doing this? Or hey, we have
Mm,
like this panel. Are you interested in speaking to a group of conductors? And that's actually where my speaking I won't say career started, but like my speaking started because I was invited to speak to conductors at the Peabody School.
yes.
And what I realized from that was there's this whole of what happens once you leave grad school.
Hmm.
So then what I said was, you know what? I have this platform and I should be of service to others. And so during the pandemic, I actually was speaking to various students in graduate programs. You know, I would volunteer 90 minutes of my time
Yeah.
and just kind of say, this is life, the career, how you kind of take the steps after grad school and what to expect. You know, so that whole thing happened. And then unfortunately, then we went through the trauma of George Floyd being murdered.
Yeah.
And then from that, I did a really lovely collaboration with Rob McClure. We did a pass the baton uh, kind of video that he has. He has this whole kind of pass the baton segments that he does on YouTube, or not, but conductor cam segments that he does on
Yeah.
YouTube. And so we did this lovely collaborative video that was just absolutely beautiful. And then again, I just kept doing things. So it's like when the world was shutting down, I was over here like, oh, I'm still working, and I was grateful to still
That's
be
awesome.
working.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because so many artists, and I guess we heard so much about let's be more creative right now because
We
those
didn't know.
artists who were struggling
Hmm.
to, March had hit, March 2020, and March was a heavy month.
Hmm. For a lot of people.
I was like, "Oh, okay." But I mean, I was good still. I
Mhm.
was I was good because things were coming in April and May, and it was surprising to me. But I'll tell you,
Mhm.
what I didn't like as one who sings, we did a lot of videos. We did a lot of,
The splicing to get, yeah. I mean, who didn't? And you realize those went away very quickly.
and I want them to stay away. Don't like you don't ever, ever, ever have to come back for anything because it was just I learned a lot from it, especially with my students, the things
Hmm.
kind of scared me that I thought, hey, I'm teaching you, but I'm
Yeah,
hearing that some of you aren't really getting certain things. But the
yeah,
benefit was, oh, okay, now I know what we can do while we're in
yeah.
this pandemic to kind of help you get to the next levels
Hmm.
things, make some changes with that. Who do you love to watch as a
As a
conductor?
conductor,
Yeah.
I mean, there's several people. So I absolutely love Gemma New. She's conductor, New Zealand conductor, and I know she was with Hamilton Phil, or at least she's finishing her tenure with the Hamilton Phil. I absolutely love Gemma. I got to work with and meet Gemma several years ago, and
Mm,
she's just so incredibly talented. Who else do I love? I love watching Carlos Kleiber. You know, I wish that I had discovered conducting much younger while he was still alive, so I could have seen him live. Ricardo Muti. I absolutely love Grant Llewellyn. Grant Llewellyn was someone who inspired me to really pursue conducting. I saw him conduct the Pacific Symphony. He did Enigma Variations. And I just remember like watching him conduct, maybe it was Nimrod or one of the other, I forget which other movement, but I just remember watching him and thinking, yeah, this is what I want to conduct. You know,
yeah.
because you talk about, emoting, and it was whatever he was giving to the musicians was
Yes.
also radiating
Yeah.
backwards to the audience. And I just remember
Yes.
thinking, yeah, that's why I want to do this.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. Are there
And
any singers that you're like as a conductor? I would love to have them under my baton.
singers, no, not yet. And I only say that just because my knowledge of like the opera world and is still vastly limited, but I am learning.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's some soloists I would definitely love to work with. Like instrumental soloists. Like I love Gosha Hom. I'm
Yes.
still stalking him. He just doesn't know
Oh,
yet.
well, so you about to know now.
I know, right? No, but I mean, like Randall Gooseby, Stephen Isserlis. Like I was fortunate to work with the Geneva Connie Mason, and so being able, I would love to work with Sheku. I mean, it's just I am a champion for up and coming instrumentalists
Yeah.
and just supporting the next generation. So, I also love that I'm still a young conductor.
Yep.
And so I have so many more years ahead of me, and hopefully I'll be able just to to continue working with and building connections.
Absolutely. What's been one of your toughest challenges? Let me extend that question too, because um, female conductors, let alone Black women conductors,
Mm-hmm.
are extremely rare on
Mm.
main stages.
Yeah.
And although we have seen wonderful shifts to breaking down some of, those, good old boy network that are a part of it, or, European
Mm-hmm.
traditions of seeing men and white men in this area,
Mm-hmm.
still have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Have any, or has any tough challenge been because of that?
I'm gonna say yes. Yes and no. I think as a Black musician, even as a Black person in America, we often talk about the Black tax. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Where you have to work 3 times as hard to prove
Yes.
yourself to your white counterpoint, whether it be male or female.
Yeah.
And I know for me, sometimes I often feel that pressure of needing to show up and show out because sometimes I'm still the only Black person in the room.
Right.
And I know that all the eyes are watching me. And if I make a mistake, then it's, oh yeah, it's because,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So that's definitely something I often think about. And sometimes too, because I don't look like what people would consider a conductor,
Mm-hmm.
I've been mistreated, so to
Yeah.
speak, before people realize I am the conductor, because then it's like, oh, you're the maestra. Yes, I
Uh-huh.
am.
Right. 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 Right.
Mhm. Yes, I am her. That is correct. She is me. But I've also had people tell me it's like, you're really talented. I love playing under you, but there's just something about playing under a woman conductor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
So I will say it's like I understand that most of my successes have been because of my determination, because of my hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that I've been fortunate to be a part of fellowship programs and diversity initiatives, which I think are fantastic because it opens the door for people to have these opportunities who otherwise wouldn't have them. But it's also like a catch-22 because I'm a Black Latina
Yeah.
woman conductor. I still don't exist,
Amen. I know it. Right.
right? It's like we have Black women conductors like Jerrylyn Johnson, you
Yes.
know, Tanya Leon, who's also a composer. But it's like Latina, Black,
Yeah.
where are we?
Yeah. Well, you're setting the precedence. Do you think about it like that? That I want to be the one to break some of these glass ceilings.
I don't
Mhm.
think about it that way, because one of my mentors, Marin Alsop, has broken many glass ceilings so that myself and many others can be able to walk through the doors that we have been
Yeah.
able to walk through.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't want people to see me as a Black conductor. I just want them to see me as a conductor. But
Mm,
I know that is probably not going to come for quite some time.
yeah. And I could dig so deep on that comment too, because um, I think there's a lot of people, and I know you've heard it before, people saying, I just want people to see me as a person. Don't
Mhm.
see me as being Black.
Mhm.
And I have never subscribed to that because,
Mhm.
I figured since God made us in all different colors, cultures, ethnicities, and shit,
Yeah.
there is a beautiful purpose in honoring who I am. So
Mhm.
I want you to be able to see me as this Black human being. And I want you, when you see that you're offering me the same level of respect if I were, a Latina, if I were, Asian, if I was a white woman. I want you to just offer me that same level of respect
Mhm.
and appreciation and into my art, knowing that, oh man, she's excellent. I don't need
Mhm.
you to say she's excellent as a woman, like you're defining the work that I do by my sexuality, but I want you to say it as like she's just an excellent conductor. So I get that. For me, it's
Mhm.
like both sides of the coin. I don't want you to negate that I am this Black woman, but I don't want you to have to define what I do by saying what I do is good because I am a Black woman. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
No,
with
exactly.
you. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
It's almost like that thing where it's like, listen, we can do more than the Black History Month concerts.
Oh God, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
yes,
Or it's like so there were several organizations after George Floyd's murder that were emailing me, hey, we would love you to be on our board.
yeah,
Hey, we would love for you to do X. And it was like, okay, so where were you 3 years ago?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we're in the space now. Oh, that everyone wants to deal with diversity and inclusion because
Hmm.
of these things that have happened.
Hmm.
Again, I'm in this position where it's like, okay, maybe the intentional timing of the creator just says, listen, this is the time that people would receive it. Therefore, this situation had to happen. The George
Hmm.
Floyd and all those, the Trayvon Martin and all those had to
And the
happen.
Tyree Nichols, yeah.
Yeah, to awaken people to say, okay, we got to start doing better.
See, and I think that is completely fine. Obviously, the murders of Black men is not fine,
Right.
right? But what I'm saying is the awakening is completely fine, but it has to come from a place of authenticity.
I'm with you. Totally.
Because so I'm a person who I will tell you like it is,
Hmm.
and I walk in my truth and I don't apologize for that.
Yeah.
So I do everything with authenticity. And so my biggest thing is don't say that we are committed to DEI, or we are doing these DEI initiatives because you're wanting to check a box. No. Say that you are doing these or supporting these DEI initiatives, or finding out more information about them because you authentically and honestly feel
Yeah.
that you as an organization, as a person, will benefit from what that has to offer to you.
I love that. I'm gonna need you to say that again because I might need to hear that. No, seriously, because I'm tired of feeling like boxes are just being checked. I'm
Mhm.
tired of feeling that, and you're right. I want you to do it because you're trying to be better as an individual, as a human, as an organization, as whatever it is that you're over, and not just because now is the time to do it. That's really
I mean,
important.
so it's like it goes back to the pandemic of now is the time to be creative. Why?
Right? You should have been creative years ago, right?
No, but I mean, but it was like, okay, we're being creative for the sake of being creative. There's no authenticity in that.
Yeah.
I picked up my violin. So I looked over because he's on the floor. I picked up my violin and played once
He.
during the
Sorry.
yes,
That's great.
his name is Boy. Boy lives in the corner. But I played my violin once during the pandemic because I just got this spark of inspiration. I was like, wow, it felt amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I don't need to replicate that because I'm not feeling that right now. And I didn't feel it for the rest of the pandemic. That's okay.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like that was an authentic moment for me.
Yeah.
Not something that, now is the time to be creative because we need to check this box and we don't know when this is going to be over. No, now is the time to sit with yourself
Yeah.
and be okay sitting with that discomfort.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think that's what a lot of kind of the conversations are maybe covering, is that people don't know how to sit with themselves in that discomfort.
Mm. Don't be stepping on people's toes right now, Kalena.
Listen, growth comes from discomfort. Let's
I
say.
mean, but you're so right. Like, I tell my students all the time, you have to learn how to be okay with those
But not,
uncomfortable moments.
yeah,
You have to learn. You don't
yeah,
get complacent,
yeah.
but it is okay because you're going to figure out a whole lot of things about you and the situations when
Hmm.
you're okay with, all right, it's momentary. It
Hmm.
will pass. I don't know how long it will take, but it will
But
pass.
with that,
And in the process, I've got to be okay with the process. People just want
hmm.
quick. They
Hmm.
want quick everything. And this generation, to me, from what I have been witnessing, is that if they're not getting it instantaneously because they're so entitled
Yeah.
They're struggling with work ethic. And as you said, excellence,
Yeah.
musical excellence, because it's just foreign concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in part, a lot of times too, social media is very deceptive,
Mm-hmm.
make them feel and believe that this is a quick and easy thing to do. And if this person can get with it and do it and make money from it, well, certainly I can.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work that
No,
way.
I totally agree. And one thing that I strive for as a conductor is I want to show the transparency of what I do. It's like after I did the BBC prom back in 2021, I believe, I made a post on Instagram, and I log my hours, my study hours, just so I can keep myself accountable. And also, I would tend to forget like how many I do that day.
Yeah.
But I logged like over 160 hours of studying for the BBC
Wow.
prom because it's this massive
Wow.
event, that means a lot, but I wasn't doing it for clout. I wasn't doing it for likes. It was to show, hey, you guys see the glitz and the glamour and the videos. The prom was a beautiful experience. But what you didn't see was me not hanging out with my friends.
Yep. Yep.
You didn't see the tears, you didn't see the frustration,
Yep.
you didn't see the self-doubt.
Yep.
And it's like it's all of those things where
Yep.
it's like I feel like it's so important to show those sides. And
Yep.
especially for young students today, it's to show, listen, if you want something, you have to work for it. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yep. That's so good. I mean, you just gave so many great golden nuggets in the last 3, 4, 5 sentences that you just mentioned. And I'm hoping that those who are listening and watching, that they're gleaming something from that and they can take and apply that. It is really, really hard work. I'm looking at time and I know that you are getting yourself ready to travel again.
Yeah, again.
What are you about to do, Kalena?
What aren't I about to do?
Agenda?
No, so I have a lovely conducting engagement with the Albany Symphony this weekend, doing a Valentine's Day romance concert.
Oh,
So the music of Inkiro Okoye, Bizet, we have Rodrigo's Concierto de Aranjuez,
yes.
and then Dvorak 8. So, I'm getting ready to hop on a plane again to go work with a really fantastic orchestra.
I mean, I just think it's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I live a blessed life. I know that, and I don't take that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The other day you were saying, about, paying for a place that you're not even able to
It's true.
in, right? And I just saw a silver lining in there that is a blessed position to be in, that because there are many other artists who are like, listen, I'm trying to find the money to pay for the place that I'm living in and unable to.
Well, that, and then I also think, it's like I have colleagues who've been trying to get their foot in the door for the past 12 years,
Yeah.
Trying to break into the profession.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult. And, some of them have honestly given up.
Yeah.
And so it's why I say I know that I live a blessed life because somehow I was lucky enough to get my foot in the door. And somehow I was lucky enough to find this beautiful apartment that, yes, I barely am in, but I have a roof over my head. And many people can't say that.
Yeah. Let me just ask this question before we wrap up. Trajectory of career, because I'm looking at a lot of people that are going into singing, and they literally feel or they're making comments that would make them feel and think that there's one particular way to get to their destination. Did you take a traditional approach or a non-traditional?
Oh no, everything about my life has been non-traditional.
Yeah.
Again, I started playing violin when I was 11, didn't have my first lesson at 18. I
Right.
entered college at the age of 24. I was an older college student, because I went to community college first. And then when I got to grad school, I was 31.
Yeah.
But it's like I in college, I worked 6 different jobs, not all in the same day, but it's like working 6 different jobs and doing, piecing together X and piecing it together Y.
Yeah.
No, nothing about my journey has been traditional. And I think that's what makes it beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's called drive. Like if there's one word to summarize all of that you did, you have drive. And that is something that you cannot teach people.
No, you can't teach people drive and you can't teach people grit, and I will say very quickly, like, because I've always been the older conductor, I've never been able to do certain workshops or master classes or competitions, so some of my colleagues who have like big name workshops on their resumes, I was never able to do.
Right.
And so because I kind of had to carve my way through and kind of carve out my own career, so to speak, it's more meaningful to me because I worked hard for it. And that's not to say that my colleagues had things handed to them.
No.
But when you talk about some of the difficulties, I mean, one of the difficulties for me was my age.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, if you want it, work for it. And I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Period. No time soon. No time soon.
No time.
I promised everybody that I would make sure that I put your information. It's KalenaBovell.com. This is the website that you all can go to. You can check out more videos, the blog that she has, just information about her upcoming performances, contact if you want her to, come and direct something that you have coming up. All of it is right there that you can reach to her. I really am just so excited and appreciative of you joining. Again, I told you the other day, I have so much more to talk to you about, and time.
Well, I guess we're going to have a part 2.
You know this to be true. I'm so glad you said it because I was going to say it, right? Know this to be true. But
we need a 2.0.
Hey, I'll call you up. I'll send you an email. So just make sure you listen. And this sister is timely. When I said, hey, we'll start at so-and-so, come on. She was on earlier than the time that was asked. And I appreciate that because, I got to respect people's time. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. I'm not even going to lie. I'm a procrastinator at heart. But I had a really good friend who let me know how much procrastination that I was doing affected everybody else. And I never did. I never thought about that like that. And so I didn't ever want to be that burden onto other people. So
no. So in grad school, I was personnel manager. And so I was a stickler for time. But it's funny. One of my running jokes is like, I am the laziest busy person you will ever meet. So.
I love it. And I'm going to take that quote. That's going to become mine. I am the laziest.
I should just put it like right here, like the laziest busy person.
Put it on a T-shirt. That was. I'm so serious. That is so awesome with that. Anyway, thank you so much, Kalena.
Thank you for having me.
I so appreciate it. Thank you to the musicians that are watching this. I hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed this show. Go on ahead and share it with somebody, especially those people who feel like, oh my gosh, do I follow every trajectory that's out there? No, sometimes it is finding your own voice inside this world. As a matter of fact, it's all the time that. And then you will appreciate your journey all the more on the way. Go back and listen to this and share it with other people. Kalena, we will be part 2 soon. Traveling mercies to you on your way. I know that the show will be phenomenal. What do we say to conductors? Do we say break a leg?
Break a leg, break a baton, toy, toy, toy.
Okay, toy, 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 but you said you weren't singing. That's what we said. So
okay.
All right, break a baton.
There we go. Or just have fun.
While you're out there. Peace and blessings to you all. And until the next time, guys.